7:47, we could learn as early as today New York City's plan for returning to school this fall. The first day of school in 60 days away. And if the kids aren't in school, that means parents just cannot go back to work. It's a dilemma that Comptroller Scott Stringer says he has a plan for. He joins us live this morning to share his thoughts on it. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Nice to be on the show.
So during the mayor's press conference yesterday, sir, Mayor de Blasio said they are working on a school reopening plan and hope to have the details out sometime this week. I'm just curious in timing for you. Why not give the city the chance to release their plan before you release yours?
Well, we've given them a plan. There's 60 some odd days left before the start of school. This has to be more of an urgency if we're going to implement a plan that's going to work for parents. Everybody knows that parents with kids are worrying every single day, myself included, what's going to happen with the first day of school. Will we have a safe plan? Will we have a plan that addresses issues like child care, the number of kids capped in the school, in the classroom? These are all issues that have to be thought about, as well as how we're going to pay for the reopening and how we're going to navigate the HEROES Act in Washington. So no, we are not early by any means. We are actually running late. I've put out a number of suggestions, put out a comprehensive look at what we could imagine, talking to parents and educators. But look, I'm rooting for the mayor and the chancellor to get it together and get to parents with a workable plan. We're going to have to mobilize teachers. We're going to have to mobilize everyone in the education system in the same way we mobilized hospitals during the height of the pandemic. So we can open, but we have to have an urgency.
Right. So you're calling for schools to reopen, right? Which calls for regular COVID testing within classrooms, smaller class sizes, which does make sense. But is it staggered? Would everybody be back in school, or would some kids still be at home?
We would have staggered times under my plan, staggered times, cap classrooms at 12 students, make sure there's kids that are able to wear masks, making sure that teachers and kids are safe. We have to have a real health and safety protocol because this is our children, the most precious people in the world, and we have to respect the health and safety of our teachers.
And temperature checks.
We need to know specifics. We need to know specifics. Parents need to know. Parents need to know how they're going to get to work, how they're going to drop off kids. So I want an urgency plan put in place. Obviously, things are going to change between now and the first day of class. It's the nature of the pandemic and the nature of the illness. But we've got to start moving if we're going to meet the needs of the education needs of our kids.
And that brings me to this. Chancellor Carranza was on the Pixar Morning News 2 weeks ago, and here's what he had to say about you and your criticism for the lack of planning of the Department of Education. Take a listen.
Comptroller Stringer is a wonderful public servant. We have a great relationship, but he couldn't possibly know what we're doing to strategically plan for the fall. We started planning for a return to in-person learning the day that we went into remote learning mode. That being said, we have done an analysis. We have all of the medical advice around social distancing. We've done an analysis of every square foot of every one of the 1,800 schools in New York City. That is now in the hands of principals, and no one knows their building better than a school principal.
So how do you respond to that?
Well, I agree with him on what he said about me as being an outstanding public official. No, just kidding. Look, I certainly understand the job that he has, but what I would part ways is to say that it's not going as well as he thinks. A lot of principals, people that we're looking at, are worried about the bureaucracy at the DOE. The proof will be when they announce a plan. I hope it comes sooner rather than later. But look, I want to work with the chancellor, but as controller, my job is to point out the direction we're going in, and if it's the wrong direction, I'm going to say something.
Yeah, and you're also the financial guy as well. So the Schools for All plans recommends face shields for children in the first grade and younger. Who would provide them, and who is paying for them?
Well, ultimately, we're going to need an infusion of federal dollars under the HEROES Act for the reopening of schools. There's no getting around that. This is going to be a very expensive proposition to do this right. And again, we're going to have to work with our congressional delegation, work with our teachers union, our labor partners to make sure we get the kind of resources to open up school for our children. So there's the financial resources, but there's also the specific plans that have to be announced, because that will guide us in terms of the financial resources we need.
Lastly, sir, I want to get to the NYPD and removing $1 billion from its budget. Some have claimed it's smoke and mirrors and just moving money around. You're the financial guy. You know where the money is going. So will the cuts actually make a difference? What's your take here?
I think I was the one who said this was smoke and mirrors. This is not a $1 billion cut to the NYPD. Shifting resources from one agency to another, shifting programs is not reducing resources at the NYPD. The reality is we need to look at ways that we can better invest in our communities. One of the ways to do that is to reallocate resources within the police department that has never realized any cuts. In fact, we've increased the budget of the NYPD billions of dollars since the Bloomberg administration, and trying to get to this false $1 billion was a way, I think, of mollifying some of the protesters and the advocates who really want to see fundamental change in policing, and also resourcing communities that have been challenged by the COVID virus, kids who had summer programs curtailed because of the financial crisis. Let's think about how we can reimagine the funding for all of our communities, especially the communities hit hardest.
We shall see how this all plays out moving forward, as well as with the education system. Comptroller Scott Stringer, thanks for taking the time this morning.
Good to see you.